Oliver Stone.
Good news. It's going to be distributed by Cinema Libre, which is a Philip Diaz is an aggressive, it's a small American distribution company, but it does get through. And Philip is. Are you here today? Philip? Yeah. Yes. Hi. See you later. He's coming out with America, so we're going to play in some cities, and I think Showtime is going to take it on TV, which is quite a significant play, considering that in 2003, when Comandante came out, HBO promoted the film and then killed it with 2 weeks to go because of pressure from these kind of guys.
And you still can't get it here in the United States?
Well, they had a license for a year and a half. They didn't do anything with it. They give it back to us, and the copyright belonged to a Spanish producer. We are having issues, but they want to make money with it, and it's not done for that reason. And anyway, I'm trying to get it out. It is being seen in England, and it has been seen in Canada, but not in the United States.
I have my copy from London. I got it on Amazon UK, yeah.
And also, by the way, Canada's not too far.
That's true. And the same region code for the DVD player, actually. Is it possible you've actually gotten more political as you've gotten older?
No, because I was a firebrand on Salvador and Platoon and those kind of movies, JFK. But I think the firebrand aspect is perhaps a little bit more mellow. I think I see clearer. I mean, the IMF is a big issue, and it's not really much talked about in this country because I suppose it's boring, and economics is very tough for most people to grasp. But economics lies at the root of this whole thing, and economics is politics in this case. So the IMF and World Bank are very tough issues. But we had the help of Tariq Ali, and I want to add. I want to add that the titles are incomplete. There is another writer who was crucial to this process, was Mark Weisbrot, who works with Dean Baker over at the Institute for National Economic and Policy Research in Washington, D.C. Mark really worked hard, and his name is added. He's going to be added. This is an old print. He's going to be added to this as a co-writer, and he's a real economic and political analyst, and very solid. So Mark Weisbrot is also a co-writer here with Tariq and me.
And there's something about doing documentaries as opposed to fiction films. Like your films have always had a lot of nonfiction in them. That seems to be even more of a personal and direct statement by you. You seem to be willing to say it rather directly by making these films now.
I consider these dramatic documentaries in the sense that they're done in a Michael Moore way, where I get involved and I go see Castro. I saw him twice. I did 2 interviews. And by the way, I did another interview with him, I forgot to say. Last August, we were able to spend 3-4 hours with him in Havana, in his villa where he's retired. He's 84, and we met him there on a very mellow Sunday afternoon, right before we were supposed to shoot Wall Street. So we ran back and forth, and we got 3 hours of Fidel on film, talking as a retired man. And his brother, as you saw in the movie, is very strong. Raul is a strong character. And Raul does run the country with with that whole group that runs Cuba. But so Fidel was talking to us not as much as a political leader as he was as a older man looking back on his life. So it was quite something to see Fidel again.
Well, it's fascinating because the first 2 films are both so different in terms of there's such a different tone from the first one that HBO didn't run to the second one where you were pushing him a little harder but getting interesting answers. It sounds like the proper rounding off of the trilogy in a way.
It's maybe not as exciting, but it's a nice bookend. It's like an older man film, and we meet his wife, we meet his children. He's like a grandee retired in a little suburban villa, and it's his optimism. His body is failing him to a certain degree, but his mind is extremely alert. He reads everything. And he comments on Obama, he comments on Chavez, the revolution, and so forth, and the recession, the great recession of 2008.
So when Fox News chooses to call Obama a socialist, should we be applauding him? Should we be saying that's a good thing? If Fox News chooses to call Obama a socialist, should we be going, yeah, that's the good answer?
Well, David, I think from this movie, small movie you saw, you can say, I don't think that Fox News is particularly inaccurate. I have to applaud. I mean, Jon Stewart was unbelievable that he went up against Riley the other day. I just thought his performance. I mean, he was a very good debater. I mean, anybody who can stand in that kind of illogical limelight. Yeah, wow.
And I respect O'Reilly in a weird way for putting up the uncut version.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he put up the entire interview so you can see just how much smarter Jon Stewart is than he is.
Well, you know, O'Reilly is very smart compared to his colleagues. But as you know, as has been, I mean, this is a really we are assaulted with a density of ignorance that's appalling in this country. And it's so bad. It's gotten worse and worse and worse. And as Brian Parry said in his Consortium News website, I don't know if are you familiar with it? He was very involved in the 1980s, and he just goes on in very great detail about how the right has bought the media from 1970s with a concerted effort from the 1970s on, and now they've bought into the internet heavily. So they're everywhere, and they have big money. And whereas the so-called liberals have not been able to purchase and hang in there for the fight. So it's over in that educational sense, unless what? You tell me. I mean, the audience out here is much more progressive in many ways than I mean, Santa Barbara is obviously a maven, and it's you may well be an outpost.
Well, yeah, a sense of self-involvement and wanting to, actually think beyond our own car and our own house is the starting point, which I think is very hard even for the liberal elite in this country at this point. No?
I think it's very hard. I think it's very hard to remember all the everyday mundane things that happen, like paying taxes that go to Afghanistan, or going to do this. We have bases in, remind me, it goes up all the time, 134 countries it used to be, and we have quite a military presence all around the world. We pay for that every day. It's a huge amount of money. We pay for the DEA, we pay for all these programs, and the DEA is no friend of Latin America, it's no friend of any country we put it in. The war on drugs is almost equally as terrible as the war on terror. It's just been more acceptable because of the media drumbeat on the war on drugs.
So do you expect, please?
Thank you. I like that coca. I got high, but I was really able to play great soccer. I never played soccer like that. I don't play soccer.
So when this movie gets seen more widely, do you expect there to be an effort to marginalize you and say, well, that's just Oliver Stone going off again, or?
Well, that's already happened. I think New York, when Chavez came to New York, there was like a silence that was in the New York Post. Boy, that was something. But anyway, we got Chavez through New York. He went, and he came and went. And, it's such a, you start from zero. He's so demonized, you can't even begin to start. I mean, you get into these discussions about what did he do here, he did there, and you become marginalized through discussion. But the big picture is constantly ignored, and the big picture is enormous. And any economist in the world who's got any admission, who is not shameless, will say that Venezuela has improved remarkably under Chavez. And this is constantly ignored in the mainstream press.